Okay, so it's January, let's say January 10th, because that's when the video, you'll be done over the weekend, right?
Yes.
So January 10th, this is a video for faculty and students, particularly for faculty, about vaccinations. Talking about the COVID-19 vaccine, let's put it in context. Today, the rate of death in the United States is one person every 21 seconds. Over 4,000 people a day are dying of COVID in our country. So this vaccine is really a lifesaver, and it couldn't come at a better time. It's amazing that in literally just 9 months, we have two vaccines that are both 95% effective when both doses have been received. That is, I mean, it's really miraculous, and it's a tribute to science. So, should you get vaccinated? Hell yes, okay, get vaccinated. These vaccines have really been extensively tested on age, race, ethnicity, and gender groups, and they've been proven to be both very effective, much more effective than they originally thought, and safe. I mean, literally hundreds of thousands of people at this point have taken this vaccine. So whatever qualms you have, and there's an estimate today by Kaiser, medical group, saying that a quarter of the people in the country are reluctant to take the vaccine, including healthcare workers. That is nuts. I mean, there's reasons for it. Some people are, terrified of all vaccines. Some people are, because of experiences, particularly people of color, have been used very poorly by the medical community for testing viruses. There's a lot of reasons for people to be, warp speed. Was it done too quickly? Was it really proven? Whatever qualms you have, forget about it, okay? As they would say in The Godfather. I mean, these things have been taken now by hundreds of thousands of people. Very, very few reactions, if any. And in the cases where there have been reactions, people have recovered very quickly, and there's been no long-term damage. No, you won't get COVID-19 if you take the vaccine. That isn't how these vaccines work. So kind of relax and just jump on the train and do this. We got to protect. This is to protect you. It's to protect your coworkers, our students, your family, your friends, and ultimately the whole country. We all have to do this. So the only caveat I'll say, and this really applies, we've already had people who've had serious food allergies and other kinds of allergies who've taken the vaccine at Amity with no reactions, no problems at all. And that goes throughout the country. If you have had an anaphylactic shock as a reaction to a vaccine, it doesn't mean you shouldn't take it. It just means take the vaccine at a medical facility, that's where you're going to get it anyhow, and hang out for a couple hours. If you have any kind of reaction, they know exactly what to do, and there'll be no serious after effects. But some people just have, very, very few people, but some people have a bizarre reaction, an anaphylactic shock. If you've had that before, just take that precaution. For the rest of us, go forward, stick your arm out, and we're going to show you some pictures. The president, the vice president, the surgeon general, and a bunch of people at Amity you're going to see popping up on your screen who've already had taken the vaccine, and they want me to say for them, they're doing this to reduce any anxiety you might have about taking the vaccine. For myself, I'm actually taking the vaccine next Friday, a week from today. And if I could take it today, I would be there with my arm out. So when you take the vaccine, how will you feel? I mean, you may have a few hours or even maybe a day of minor flu-like symptoms. What does that mean? Headache, fatigue, a little low fever, a muscle ache, and you might have a sore arm. What does that mean? It just means your body is going to work manufacturing those antibodies that you need to protect yourself against this virus. So it's a good thing, and it doesn't last very long, but you may want to think, if you're going to work the next day, you may want to take a personal day, or if you're working from home, of course, it's easy because you can adjust your schedule accordingly. But that's the expectation, you know. Some people have absolutely nothing. Some people have some headaches and stuff. When am I safe? Important question. You will not have full 95% protection from coronavirus until a few days after you have your second shot. Okay? You'll immediately get some protection. We don't know how much, even after your first shot. But the full protection will come after you've had your second shot, and for the Moderna vaccine, 2 weeks after that. So you have the second shot, but 2 weeks later, the full protection is there. For the Pfizer one, it's about a week. Okay, so there's a little bit of difference in terms of the full protection. So it's not immediate. And the first shot does not give you full protection. So what are the cautions here for you to really think about? The vaccine does not 100% prevent infection. And we don't know yet if you can still be contagious. Okay, we don't know that yet. I mean, first, the virus is very new. The vaccine is even newer. So we haven't had enough people go through it for a longest period of time to really get all that data. It will be available. Month after month, we'll know more about some of these questions. But we do know about the vaccine. Once you've had the second shot and that week or 2 weeks afterwards, it will prevent you, even if you were infected, from really getting really sick and ending up on a hospital and a ventilator, or with these really frightening long-term consequences of lung damage, heart damage, brain damage, and loss of hearing, loss of smell. I mean, all kinds of things that have happened for people who have gotten the virus and have not been protected in any way. So you will be protected against that, and that is really, really good news. Another caution, it takes a while, a few weeks, for your body to really build a full complement of these antibodies. It doesn't happen with a finger snap. So be patient and recognize that. That means you could be infected right before you're vaccinated, and you could be infected right afterwards and still get sick. Keep practicing all, and I do mean all, of the safeguarding procedures we have been talking about for the last 9 months. In particularly, look at the January tape on the virus that we just released last week. It's got a lot of new information, a lot of important information for all of us. Okay, so for some of you who are watching this, you've already been vaccinated, right? Okay, so remember, you've been vaccinated. It's your first one. You're not bulletproof. So you have to have both of these shots. I keep saying this, but it's really important. You have to have both the shots to get full protection. So make sure you show up for that second shot. Don't blow it off, okay? When you get the first shot, they will schedule you for the second shot. Put it on your calendar. Tie a string around your finger or whatever you need to do. But make sure you're there for that second shot, because that is the one that's going to give you the full protection a week or 2 weeks later. And of course, keep wearing your mask and safeguarding. So suppose you've had COVID, because we have a number of faculty and a number of students who have had COVID. A study that I really literally just got this morning showed, because there's kind of a question, well, I've had it, can I be reinfected? The answer is that so far, and of course all the stuff is fairly new because we haven't had the virus that long, but 8 months after somebody is fully recovered, this study shows that the antibodies are still effective in preventing infection. So that's good news. Now, we don't know. They may last for a year, 3 years, or forever. You know, some inoculations, vaccines that we get, that's it. You take it once, you don't have to, it's a lifetime of protection. We don't know that yet. We won't know that. We'll know more in a year, we'll know more in 2 years, we'll know more in 3 years. We just don't have the answer. But the good news is if you have had COVID, you are protected for the next few months at least, and probably longer. But 90 days after you've fully recovered from COVID, go ahead and take the vaccine. And that will ensure that you have the maximum in protection. So I'm sure, you know, if you're watching the news, and I'm sure most of you are, how about these new strains of virus, which, of course, you know, you think everything's, just when you think everything's going to go in the right direction, at least on the vaccines arriving, in the wrong direction in terms of the amount of infection, but at least on the vaccine front looking good, then you hear there's new strains. Well, the new strains are pretty scary because both the UK version and the South American or African version, Southern African version, both appear to be more contagious, which is not good news. However, they both seem at this point that the vaccine will knock them out. We don't have any guarantees. I mean, we don't know how many new strains of this will appear in the coming months or the coming years. We know that the fact that the original SARS, one of the reasons these vaccines were developed so quickly is that there are many coronaviruses, and the SARS viruses of a few years back were a variety of coronavirus. So that's one of the reasons that the vaccine came along much more quickly, because there's been a lot of research on coronaviruses. So presumably, and if we're fortunate, even if there are variations, there will be fairly expedited responses to them. So you've heard, you have heard about herd immunity, and you may have either understand it or say, what the hell is herd immunity? Really, what herd immunity is, very, very simply, is a virus has to have a host, like any parasitic thing. It has to have a host. And when there are almost no hosts around, the pandemic ends because there's no place for the virus to go. So that's herd immunity. It's transferred from livestock, when you have a lot of cows or sheep or whatever. In many cases, what happens, and if they don't have a vaccine, a lot of animals will die, but eventually everybody will have been infected, and the survivors will have immunity, and the virus will die of its own accord because it doesn't have anybody else to infect. For us human beings here in the United States, if we went the route of trying to get herd immunity naturally without vaccine, we would probably lose over 5 million people. Bad enough that we've lost over 350,000 people. So essentially the vaccine will artificially give us herd immunity. Those people who have had COVID and have recovered, who are part of the herd, the immune herd, And the rest of us who have been vaccinated and are therefore protected, that will kill the pandemic and kill the spread of the virus. And that will be a happy day for all of us. You're going to see a picture of a guy who is certainly heroic, and that's Dr. Anthony Fauci, who's been working in government service for well over 50 years and will be part of the Biden administration as his chief advisor on the infectious diseases, particularly coronavirus. This is the person you want to tune into as this pandemic begins to taper down. The day that Anthony Fauci gets on television and says, okay, we've achieved herd immunity, we can stop wearing masks all the time and doing some of these other prophylactic measures that we've had to do, that's the day I take my mask off, and that's the day I recommend to you, and all of Amity's management will recommend to you, okay, we're out of the woods. But we aren't out of the woods until that happens. And that may take several more months, because in order to get herd immunity, we've got to vaccinate about 75 to 85% of everybody in the United States. If you're under 16, you can't take the vaccine. So that means that we got to get just about, and there's a lot of kids in this country, a lot of people under 16. So that really means we've got to get just about every adult in the United States to put their arm out and take this vaccine for us to really achieve that level of protection that we need to kill this pandemic and put it behind us. We're all part of this. This is a time when patriotism and civic responsibility and just plain old humanity and caring for each other demands that each one of us does what we really need to do to protect ourselves and to protect our fellow human beings. I don't know how long it will take for the whole world. The United States will probably get there quicker. There's a lot of poor countries where even if the vaccine was there, it would be very, very hard to distribute. I hope, really hope, that not only will we get through this, but the world will get through this in 2021. And that we can all breathe a little easier and we can focus on the other terrible problems that are on our immediate horizon. That we've got about 9 years to really focus on climate change before we hit a tipping point and an enormous amount of pain and suffering throughout the world, particularly for people who are already suffering. So once we get through this pandemic, then we can kind of focus on some of the other, even larger problems that face us. But in order to do that, that means every one of us has to step up, take the vaccine, and also keep these protective measures in place for the next few months. So as always, I thank you for everything you've done so far and for what we're asking you to do in the next few months. I know in some ways it's a real drag and it's a sacrifice, but it's a sacrifice we need to make.